I
Oh,
guess
I
it's not really Arizona State's not really the West Coast, but it's close.
yeah, and a lot of people said because there's a lot of people out there from California, so a lot of people kind of likened it to California without the beach, just in terms of like just the vibe and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, I absolutely did want to stay there, but I didn't have a choice in the matter. I had to come home because, like I told you, I tried, getting involved with this startup and, it didn't really pan out. And I kind of put everything I had into it and you kind of just, it fell apart. And that's where I kind of, like I told you, I had that chip on my shoulder where I was like, okay, I don't want to rely on anybody else.
Yeah.
I got to find my own way, but I know I needed to learn.
You just see so many people from the East Coast move to the West Coast, and they sort of they coincidentally get stuck. They're like, oh, I like it out here and the weather. And so usually when people come west, they're like, you know what, these winters are a little bit easier. I think I'm gonna stay out here. But you said, I got to go back to the East Coast and go to your roots and then start building. And you were telling me about that startup thing you were doing. Was that in Arizona State, or was that in the East Coast?
No, that was actually in Arizona. So that was about a year and a half after I graduated.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I was working in promotions. So I was doing, a lot of, I was doing, movie premieres, alcohol promotions. I was promoting everything from Cheez-Its to Bridgestone tires. I did book tours, things like that.
You said
So
Cheez-Its?
Cheez-Its, yes.
Yeah, I love
Uh,
cheese.
yeah, it was great though. I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. It was just going to high traffic areas. We would go to, we would go to music festivals, things like that. And we would just give out free stuff and we just promote the brand. We'd take event photos, but there was never any selling. You never had to convince anybody to, kind of do anything. You just had to put things in people's hands. It was just interacting with the public. It was a lot of fun, but it was a very quick cap. I was in the industry for 3 years and I couldn't make more than 25 bucks an hour after that. So there was really nowhere else to go.
Do you remember NOS energy drink?
I do, yes.
Okay, so when I was in college, I was bartending at two different places, and then I was also doing like events for NOS, and they would pay me like 23 bucks an hour to stand at like these weird car shows, like old school car shows, and I would just stand there with like the bucket of NOS energy drink and these ice and this, buckets of ice, and I would just hand out NOS, and I would have like the T-shirt and the hat and the shades. And I remember it wasn't exactly like what you did, but they would like give me stuff when I would go out in San Francisco. They're like, "Hey, hand this out to people when you go out." I was like, "Okay." And they obviously weren't paying me for that, but I remember doing promotions like that. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did that for Monster and Red Bull.
Okay.
And I was thinking about this a few weeks ago. One of the easiest, I was like maybe 19 and I was getting 20 bucks an hour for this gig for a real estate company. I literally had to put on a giant box. Like I wore a giant box and I had these big white Mickey Mouse gloves, right?
Yeah.
And I was waving people into the, to the open houses for these apartments somewhere in Glendale, Arizona. But at the time,
You were like the guy spinning the sign, kind of, but like with the suit on.
pretty much, but I didn't have a sign. I had to wear the sign, so I couldn't do anything other than just like put people in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was something I did for a quick buck.
Hey, not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they're wearing box suits and things like that. Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're going to get started. Welcome to our National Leaders Call. We have a very special guest today, or a speaker. And as you guys have seen, these calls have been spectacular. Last week, we got so many emails and so many messages about AJ's call about mentality and about law of averages and about pushing yourselves. And today, Anthony Puglia is going to talk about taking ownership of your situation, which I think is extremely relevant to the times. We're looking at the next 8 to 12 weeks of our business, and with college graduates, with people looking to change careers, with the weather, whether it's door to door, whether it's retail, whatever program you're from, we've seen in the past that this time of year either is when many people get promoted or people that end up getting promoted start. So we look at this time, regardless of what situation you're in our training program, if you really take control, as you're going to hear Anthony go over today, where you can be in 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks from now is dramatically different. And that's what's cool about our industry. If you take the right action and you listen and you learn, you can really change your situation fast. So very excited. Again, another masterclass, as I'm calling it. So Mr. Puglia, you're a regional consultant. You oversee 7 offices in 3 different programs: Verizon, Nestle, and AT&T now, with Adam in Florida. You just moved to New York. So congratulations on that. I see you're in the financial district downtown.
Thank
And you got some COVID deals. So we know you got some good deals for moving because a lot of people are moving out of New York. But we were talking yesterday about your background, and you went to college in Arizona, and you were telling me how you sort of got involved in entrepreneurship before the business, and it sort of piqued your interest, and it's why you ended up starting. So you can talk about a little bit of what you were doing before the business and what turned you on to our business.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, what I was doing primarily for a couple of years was I was a promoter. So I took, I went to major events, high traffic areas, whether it was baseball games, like I said, music festivals. I just promoted a particular brand or product or service. It was different every single time. So, like you mentioned with the NOS stuff, whether it was, Red Bull, Monster, different alcoholic drinks. I did movie premieres, Bridgestone tires when they had the Super Bowl out there in Glendale. It was just generating an awareness, and it was just interacting with the general public, and it was giving out merchandise. So it was a lot of interaction. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't selling anything. It wasn't convincing anyone to purchase something. It was just putting product in people's hands, when there was like 20 other vendors that were putting product in people's hands. But it was a lot of fun. It was heavy interaction, but it was very limited growth. Like I was telling you, there was nowhere else you can go after 25 bucks an hour. So when I got to that point in 3 years, the people who were kind of seniors in the industry that I had worked with, when I asked, well, where do you go from here? How do you get to the next level? Everyone was like, well, you can either do a national tour, which I wasn't really that interested in going to all these random cities around the country I didn't care about being in, just to set up a carnival for 4 days and then break it all down. Or start your own promotional company. And I was like, okay, well, that's an option, but I have no money, and this is the only experience I have, on the job in the field. So I didn't really see that as a viable option in that industry. But I knew I wanted to run a business. I knew I wanted to be in control of my own situation, and like I told you, I got involved with a startup for a health and wellness product line that, a buddy and I had met someone, they were launching this thing, I kind of believed in the person, believed in the brand, put everything I had into it. And it fell apart really quick after I had already invested everything I had into getting it off the ground. So that didn't leave me in a good situation. It left me kind of bitter and with a chip on my shoulder. And I felt that one of the reasons why things didn't pan out was because I was relying too heavily on other people in their different arenas within the company to get this thing off the ground. So one of the things that attracted me so much to this business was that it all rested on my shoulders. And one thing that I was willing to accept is I'll eat my failures like all day, but I also want a chance to own my successes. If I can find myself in the driver's seat, with a relative level of control of how I could progress and how I can advance through my career. So that was a huge attraction to this business for me.
You were telling me like you saw your mom work really, really hard as a kid, and you were telling me stories about how you knew you wanted to get into entrepreneurship. Not many of us don't know. We just kind of stumble into this. We answer an ad, and then we kind of see the opportunity. But you kind of knew at a young age. You like sales. You were selling stuff to your friends. But one of the main things that helped you develop your work ethic was watching what your mother did as a child. And you were telling me about she ran a cleaning business. And can you talk about that a little bit and how it impacted you, whether it was going through the field or in ownership?
Yeah. So when we moved down to the Jersey Shore, I was 13 years old. So I started middle school out there. I went to middle school and high school in Jersey. And when we moved down there, my mother didn't really have a job or much experience, so she started just cleaning, on the side, and that turned into a small little cleaning company. And of course, her workers were me and my two sisters. And I remember every Thursday we used to go clean this realty company called Crossroads Realty. So whenever I had like a friend come over after school on Thursday, my mom would come in and say, okay, who's ready to go clean? And it was so embarrassing, but we used to go and clean this place. And every Saturday, we would actually clean the bungalows on the Jersey Shore. So people would come down from New York, like all the pennies as they call them, they would rent these Jersey Shore houses for the weekend. They just trashed the place. And then my mom was the one who was scheduled to come in and clean it after the weekend for the next crew of people to come and rent the house. So we would clean like anywhere from 5 to 7 bungalows every Saturday morning for years while I was growing up. And we all had our little, task, with that, venture. So my job was to vacuum all of the houses. My little sister at the time, who was 10 years younger than me, she had to wash all the windows and the windowsills. My other sister would take the kitchen, and my mom would do everything else. So of course I'd be like the first one done, just vacuuming all the rooms. And I'd always have like a Game Boy or a book with me or something. And I would always be like, come on, mom, we got 4 more houses. Let's go, let's go. And I've got this very like vivid memory of this one particular house where, I'm looking for her, and I walk into the bathroom and I see her on her hands and knees, and she's literally scrubbing piss and shit off the floor behind the toilet. And it just like my blood just boiled. I'm like, what are you doing? No one's going to see that. Come on, like, let's go. And she got up and looked at me and she said, look, always take pride in your work, even if it's scrubbing, piss and shit off the floor. This is an opportunity and we make good money doing this. So like, we'll get to work, and that always stuck with me, especially because my mother has had 3 knee replacements. She's only got 2 knees, but she's had 3 knee replacements over time. So knowing that she was cleaning with this, this injury, obviously it would fuel me. It would piss me off. And there were times that I'd be in the field where I'd be, spewing rainwater, talking to a customer, or trudging through snow. And I'd ask myself, like, at those times when, I wasn't having the success or the day that I wanted, like, oh, what the hell am I doing? And I would think back to that day. I would think back to, what did my mom think when she was scrubbing that off the floor, just so that she can earn enough money for us to have like a end of the summer vacation to Wildwood, New Jersey. And I'm like, if my mom could do that for us, then I could walk around and talk to people, and it would just fuel me. It gave me that extra pep in my step, and it just pushed me a little bit harder. And it made me realize that, like, there's, the alternatives could be way worse than walking around talking to people and, making money that way and actually developing skill sets. No one's developing a skill washing a toilet.
Yeah, for sure. And you said that was a part of your step 7, and your goal was to help retire your mom from the cleaning business, and you were able to do that. So congratulations. And you've just been somebody in our business who's been sort of the definition of resilient and tough. And I think also, you really had growth over the past 2 or 3 years. And I think a part of it goes into your topic of sort of taking control of your own situation and not kind of waiting for things to happen, but making things happen within your world. And so, very excited to hear your topic, Anthony. So why don't you start us off and take it away? And guys, if there's any questions, please enter them into the chat. We're going to make sure we have time for Q&A at the end, and we love to hear you guys, give us feedback and ask questions about the topic. So, Puglia, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, man. And one of the things that I really wanted to do when it came to this is I really just wanted to keep it simple, and I really wanted to keep it to things that, leaders in the business can start doing like right now. It's not something you need a ton of preparation for. It's something that you can just kind of pick up and just follow and incorporate into your day to day. And I think you'll see results if you stick with it over time. And at the bottom here is a quote that says, "Today is a great day to build my business." And when I was an entry level rep, and coming into leadership, I got promoted 3 weeks in. My owner, who I started with, is no longer in the business. He had moved on to other things, but this was something that stuck with me for, all this time, where he would actually say, "Today is a great day to build my business." And he would kind of push me to say it every single day, and he would tell me, "Hey, say this 5 times a day in the mirror." And I just kind of followed suit. I just did. So I remember driving into the office every day and looking in the rearview mirror and just looking at myself and saying, "Today's a great day to build my business. Today's a great day to build my business." And it kind of just got me fired up, because I was coming into the office and I didn't look at it like a job. I looked at it like I was coming in here with a purpose, with something to strive for, which is getting to that next level and seeing what I can build in an environment like this. And I think that everybody coming through the training program has these like 5 to 10 like major pivotal points or moments throughout the course of their, program. And they're like these aha moments that either like shift your perspective or change the way you look and think about the business. And I had one specifically when I was about a year in. I had nobody on my crew, and I was kind of reaching that point of freaking out, because now what am I going to tell interviews if I tell people it's, a year-long training program? I'm here a year, I got nobody on my crew, and I'm in my own head and losing losing my marbles about it. And I remember specifically being in my backyard and thinking about just the situation that I was in, and okay, I've got to rebuild. I've been here a year. I've come way too far to turn back. Like, how do I get this thing going? And I noticed that the way I was thinking about my time in the program was, well, when I get to ownership, and when I run my business, and, it was all this future talk of getting to that point, and I had this kind of like little epiphany where it's like, wait, but you are running the business. Like it just sucks right now. And it's just you, but you are running the business. Right. And I really just shifted the way I started looking at things and said, okay, if I am running the business, and I walk in there on Monday morning, what am I doing if I'm now in control and running the business? What am I doing differently? And I think the results that people get out of this program just become a reflection of their behavior. I think there's three types of people that come in and treat this business a certain way. And I actually looked up the definitions to these things that I wanted to share, where the first is someone coming in and treating this just like a job. Right. And the definition I found for job is an activity that requires mental or physical effort that generates money. So to me, these are just the people that they show up to work. Right. And it's unfortunate because they look at their time as being worth something. And that's just not the reality. It might be for a job where you're getting paid for your time, but in business, the reality is it's your productivity that's worth something, not your time. So these are the people that do minimal effort and they get out what they put into it, which it's not much, unfortunately. So then you've got people that see this as a career opportunity. And a good definition I found for a career, an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's time with opportunities to progress. So I think that these are the people that they get the opportunity, right? Like they see this as a viable career, right? They see the potential in what this could become. And they do enough to make a difference, but they're not really the star of the show. They're not really the playmaker, right? These are the people that we've all heard the Coke analogy, right? Like if you have a Coke machine and it's $1, if you put 99 cents in, do you get the Coke? Obviously the answer is no. So what do you need to do? You need that extra oomph. You need that extra, 1%. So I think these people lack the do whatever it takes. They still want to have the career and find that nice work-life balance, right? So they're committed, but they're not ride or die type of people, right? And then you've got the people that I think are the playmakers. And these are the entrepreneurs that come into the environment because not only do they recognize, what they can do with this model, but they know what they're going to become in the office, right? And they're the ones that this I thought was an unbelievable definition I found. It actually came up when I Googled best definition of entrepreneur. This is what I found. One who acts to create a business while building and scaling it to generate a profit and transforms the world around them by solving problems. And these people are the playmakers in an office. They're the thermostat, they're the ones that change the temperature in the office, don't just read the room, right? And I think that there's a direct correlation between the level of success that you can achieve and the amount of problems that you can manage. So I love that this definition had, transforming things around you by solving problems, because the people that come in as entrepreneurs or act like entrepreneurs in the office, they don't just act like leaders in the business. They act like the business itself is theirs. They're involved with everything. They're involved with everyone, and I think the primary objective, the primary goal for people to get promoted is that you need to develop this skill set to become the best possible product you can be. And the better of a product that you become, you're going to attract better quality people around you, right? So you're going to shift from dealing with the people that are projects that are just looking to be employed to now attracting other entrepreneurial type people around you. And you're inevitably promoted because of the skills that you develop over time. And one of the things I want to touch on, that you can start doing right now that's going to help you become the best possible version of yourself, is really just take the time to educate and develop yourself. And look, there's a million things that we can list for this, but again, I'm trying to keep it simple here. And one tried and true, time tested is books. It's funny because I remember, Raf in retail, running a meeting like this, and he highlighted this list of books that he has all of his leaders read, and they're tremendous books. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge, and books, obviously, it's endless information for you to be able to shape your foundation and your mentality and how you look at things, right? It's giving yourself an education, right? And it's always a great networking opportunity as well, I think, to network with someone and find out, hey, what's a book that you've read that's made an impact on you, and shaped how you look at the business or how you operate in the business, or, what new habits do you have? And you might not be a reader, but it's really easy to interject reading a book into your day to day, starting with 5 pages a day. And then what can that evolve and turn into from there? But, not everyone's a reader, and, that's okay. There's other things you can do. And my personal favorite is podcasts. Like, I love listening to podcasts, and what's so great about the podcast is there's specific topics for literally anything you want to know. With people actually taking a real deep dive beneath the surface and uncovering a topic, where you can really get an education, learning about how two people kind of, come together and converse to uncover the truth about something over an hour or an hour and a half podcast. AJ was on this call last week, and he talked about this door-to-door podcast, which I've listened to a couple of these episodes, and they really just unpack, like, talking at length, how do you increase averages, in sales? What attracts people to door-to-door sales? I think a lot of people shy away from door-to-door sales, but door-to-door sales is an opportunity in and of itself, right? If that's all you were doing, it's an opportunity to learn to develop, unbelievable skill sets that you'll use with you for the rest of your life. There are podcasts on how to develop better habits and routines and how to build mentality. So I'm a big fan of getting immersed in something like that. And it's something you could do on a commute, car ride. Like, it takes no effort, to absorb that information. And then you've got things like leaders meetings and workshops. And this is just a huge opportunity just for more development. So it gives you, as a leader, in running leaders meetings and running workshops, the opportunity to practice your presentation skills, public speaking skills, your teaching skills, or to help develop that in somebody else. And honestly, I think too many people in the business that are in the training program, they just take what's served to them. You know what I mean? And I think one huge missed opportunity is PM atmosphere. I mean, there's offices that don't do PM ammo, and that's totally cool. That's all well and good. But for the offices that do PM atmosphere, is a huge opportunity to develop skills further. So if you took yourself as a leader, right, or someone on your crew, and you invested 15 minutes every single night in, teaching someone how to be a better teacher, or running a workshop, or, running a lesson plan so you can really master it, so you don't have the ums and, like, you're delivering it with perfection, for AM atmosphere. If you just put 15 minutes a night into that, by the end of the week, that's an extra hour and a half that you've developed into actually real-time practice of a skill, on the boards, running a workshop, or talking about a topic that you're going to continue to carry through conversations with you throughout the week. That hour and a half that's like an extra 2 atmospheres over the course of a week. If every atmosphere has 25 to 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes of teaching. So I just think it's a huge underutilized opportunity in PM atmosphere. And even if you started with just popping a bulletin up, in your kitchen or in your ammo, that, hey, tonight I'm running a leaders meeting at 9:30 on running a successful car ride. And if you had one person show up, that would be a success, because eventually you do that consistently. And now you've got the whole office showing up at night, because the people that are sticking around, investing the time to get better in themselves, are actually seeing better results. So you're going to just attract more and more people to you on that. Next is, obviously, it's a staple in the business, networking. I think a lot of people in our business, especially in the fields, from what I see, people network out of convenience, right? Like, they network with people in proximity to them, right? Because it's easy, and they already have the relationship. And I don't look at networking as like networking with someone in your office. Like, when you network, like, you network out of your circle. Like, you go out of your way to talk to somebody that you don't normally deal with on a day-to-day. The people that you're in the office with, you know most of what they know. and vice versa. So in order for me to really stand out as a leader in the office, I had to network with people outside of my office and gain new information. And I would ask people, other leaders, like, hey, have you ran a great impact lately? Or is anyone in your office or your managers run a really good meeting, that you can promote or talk about? And I would always have a fresh impact and something new to talk about that people in my office have never heard. They didn't know I was getting it from other people. They just knew it was something new, and where where this is also an opportunity to build relationships with other people, which is an exciting part of this business, the relationships that you can have. There's a leader in the office here. I was getting ready to close up. It's like 10:30, and this guy Ryan's just sitting in an office by himself. He's on the phone. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm on a networking call. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like, who's running the call? He's like, oh, I am. I'm like, okay, great. Like, what's the topic? And he's like, oh, well, every week, me and a few leaders from other offices get together and we pick one topic and we share our experiences on that topic, whether it's like running a really great car ride or an interview that really was an exciting interview, or, a retrain that we learned something from, and we see what we can learn from each other's experiences. And I just like smile. I'm like, this guy just gets it. Like no one told him to do that. Like he just went out of his way to do it because he saw the intrinsic value of getting people on a call and learning from other people's experiences. Right. So it gives you fresh material to talk about, and it's constantly keeping you sharp because you've got to talk about your own experiences and networking calls as well. You don't get to just kind of hide things under the rug. And there was a guy when I was going through the training program who he was a leader in the Philadelphia office. And there were not many offices in the organization at the time, and this guy will never know it. I mean, this is now 10 years deep, but there's this guy, Scott Arizona, that made an impact on me because of the networking relationship that we had, where we would compare and contrast where we were through the program every week. And I would randomly be, like walking through the field at, 5:30 in the afternoon. And I'd get a text message from this kid and it was a picture of a bell. And I would just get so fired up because it was this constant reminder that there were other people in the program that were working harder than me or getting better results than me, that I needed to continue to be on top of my game. So if I was just kind of like going about my business, I like had an extra pep in my step, and, I had that extra fuel, it's because I wanted that relationship with other leaders to kind of push each other. So networking is huge. I mean, we could talk about it forever, but the next one is shadowing conversations. So one thing that I really love about Ken is, is listening to his conversations. And I was lucky, as a leader going through his office at one point and shadowing these settle ups and conversations, and his ability to kind of just extract whatever he can out of the person and then feed it back to them in a way that they needed in order to kind of push them, the extra mile, and I coming into this business was someone who was like, I was very good at, managing relationships, and I was very good at, maintaining, friendships and things like that. But I was never quite good at kind of holding people accountable or giving people like the real truth about a situation. I would always like keep their, feelings into account. And Ken's the person who really showed me that the most important thing is being able to tell the truth about a situation, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. So those conversations where your palms get sweaty and it's hard to maintain eye contact, those are the conversations that you need to have. And I learned the ability to do that by observing Ken's conversations. And I remember like learning the method to the madness, that there would be two people that would come in and they would both have the same problem, but he would give two different conversations to these people, and just asking the question on, hey, why was that conversation different from this person? It was a very valuable thing to learn early on, that you're not managing situations, you're managing people who are dealing with situations, right? And everyone might need something a little bit different, and that really broke me out of like the quote, like the smart circle type responses and answers to things, and really learn how to kind of understand what the actual problem is and the person that I'm dealing with, so that I can give them the best information possible. And then last but not least on this is just asking questions. I mean, there's no better way to learn this business than to directly be capable of asking questions to people who have already accomplished what you're looking to accomplish, right? So it's understanding the method to the madness of, of this business. And the more I became educated about this business coming through the training program, the more turned on to this business I became, because I understood that there was so much more depth to this than just the field. It was really breaking people out of their comfort zones, and generally problems tend to repeat themselves. So what a better way to learn than to be able to get direct and specific information from someone who's a pro at solving or dealing with a particular problem, because eventually you're going to be able to solve that problem for yourself and other people around you, right? And even better than that, and something that I think Ken does exceptionally well is being able to identify problems before they even exist, right? So the best medicine is the preventative medicine that you can deliver, because we deal with the same types of things over and over, and following these systems to be able to constantly sharpen your skills, develop yourself, become the best possible product you can be, is only going to make you elevate not only yourself, but people around you, which is what you need in order to get to the next level. So outside of that, this next topic, and something you do take ownership, really very simple: personal recruiting. I mean, we've talked about this so much over the past couple of weeks, but this is the best time to do it. I mean, school's ending, so I'm not going to touch too much on this because there's already so much content out here. But if you really want to take ownership of your situation, then don't wait to be fed interviews to be able to grow. Take ownership of you growing your business, building your own headcount and putting in the work. Right. So one thing is the QR code that was promoted on that leadership call with Jared and Guy from his office. I mean, talk about the easiest possible thing that you can do to remove all obstacles and excuses for personal recruiting. What an unbelievable tool. Like, all you need to do is get someone to scan the QR code, and they're now an applicant to becoming a person on your crew. Right. And you just got to get to a point where you can get this in front of people and get confident in your ability to talk about, this as an opportunity. So going out of your way to personal recruit, even if it fails to bring people in the door at first, it's going to let you know what you need to sharpen about yourself, to become a better recruiter, which obviously is the backbone of us being able to build this business and, grow organizations. So utilizing that QR code tool, social media, obviously another huge opportunity to personal recruit. So being able to post paychecks, what's great about personal recruiting with social media is that you get the chance to give people a glimpse into what your world is, and you actually create the content of what everybody else will see. Right. So you can show them, you could show a small video clip of you in front of the room running an impact. Right. Like the first time I ever did that, on my social media, I had people coming out of the woodwork and say, "I didn't know you were a teacher." "Oh no, I'm not a teacher, but I was able to explain a little bit more about what I do." Being able to kind of like highlight yourself in the best possible way, and make this an attractive thing to others is just going to draw more people to you, so you can show, the culture, the environment, what you're doing for team nights, team events, team activities. You can post what your paycheck is like. So there's so many opportunities for you to be able to get creative, especially with a generation of people growing up in social media. It's definitely not my forte, but there are definitely other people that can make something really sexy and attractive to a lot of people to want to know more about this business. And then you just send them a QR code. Super simple. And then the best way to go about it, I believe, is the field, because it really forces you to talk about this with people. And if you're going to personal recruit in the field, then you have to put it in your day breakdown. Like you have to, because now you're creating a sense of accountability at the end of the day. And if every single day you're breaking down your day and under, you got presentations, okay, 5, great. Okay, how many PRs today? If your response to that is 0 every day, you are going to feel like crap. And the person breaking down your day is just going to say, well, when are you going to just start talking about it? So eventually you're forcing yourself to have the conversation with people in the field, which again sharpens your ability to recruit, and it gives you more practices at bat in order to answer basic questions about what the business is or why somebody would be interested in applying to it. So having that sense of accountability, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And even if you started off where you're bringing in one personal recruit a day, right, on your day breakdown, But now you're managing a team of 3 people. And now you could teach 3 people how to go out there and do one person, a day. By the end of the week, you've put 18 personal recruits into your funnel, and even if it doesn't get you the result or yield the result right away, it's about building the habit that's going to get you promoted faster, because you're looking at it like it's not just about the field. It's not about you going out there and just ringing the bell. The reason why you ring the bell is so that you can earn an interview the next day, but you could also get in front of 40 people in the field and recruit your own interviews. So why not just put that into your day breakdown and hold that kind of accountability with you and your crew? You're going to build so much faster when you're taking ownership of growing your headcount. And then the next thing I want to touch on, creating the culture, right? Which I think is one of the most exciting things about leadership. Now, this is not stuff that you have to do to get promoted. I just believe that this is stuff that you can do that's going to get you there that much faster, right? Like just cross the finish line already. And I've never seen anybody get promoted without having a vision. I think that is the most important thing, is that you can't just make this success overnight, right? Like that doesn't happen, right? And you would give me this questionnaire, right, on what motivates you, and I wrote growth and adventure, right? And what motivates me about adventure is not the end destination, but it's the journey. Like the adventure is the journey, right? And you need to know where you're going, but I'm a big movie fan, right? So I just love storytelling in general, right? So if you were watching a movie and there's the protagonist in the movie, and then all of a sudden at the end of the first act they have everything they need and they're in their final destination and now they beat the end game. Like that doesn't make for a very compelling story, right? So there's no overnight success in this business. I talked about running an office in Manhattan 10 years ago when I was in the field. It took me 10 years to find myself in this situation, and that's exciting, but it doesn't happen overnight. You have to know where you're going, and you got to really work hard to in order to get there. And the vision is your step 7. This is, people are confident in those who have a plan, right? People who just work jobs, they don't have a vision. They might have dreams, they might have aspirations, right? But those people that work a job, they live day to day, and you can't progress when you're reactionary to everything that you're doing every single day, right? Visionaries execute a plan, right? And they course correct as they go. They roll with the punches, but they're always moving towards something. They're moving with a purpose, so making sure that you know who you want to become and what you're willing to do to get there. And that was something that really drove me through the field. It wasn't who I was in the moment. It was, I'm on the path to becoming who I need to be, that's going to get me to where I want to go in life, right? So having a vision, and really tied into that is being able to promote your goals. Like I've never seen someone expand without doing dinners and team nights with their crew every single week, talking about when are they opening up by, what market are they going into, what campaign are they going to crush. And it's this we vision, because you aren't getting promoted by yourself. Your business is getting promoted, right, to a point where now you get to generate profit on the business that you've built within the office, right? So the people that are getting promoted, they stand for something, right? They know what they want to accomplish, and they promote and talk about their goals. They've got daily, weekly, 6-week game plans, and they're teaching themselves and other people around them to become more self-sufficient. And you just be so surprised on how productive people can be when they all are working towards the same vision and the same goal, and everyone's just firing on all cylinders. It's amazing how fast things just build. And that's when you see, offices just kind of shoot to the top, because they've just cracked the code on being able to work together, understanding what their goal is, and they're all holding each other accountable, and getting to that next level. But it starts with you as the leader, and that's what's going to attract the people around you who also want to create that type of accountability to reach the goals that they set for themselves. And then taking on as much responsibility as you can. And I think this just boils down to just one core fundamental concept, and that's, how do you get stronger, right? So I looked at the problems that I had going through the field, like the personal problems I had, kind of where I was 20, 24, 25, and just like life problems. And I remember thinking like how just monumental the problems of running a business seemed, comparison to where I was managing just my own problems, and I really thought like, okay, how do I get to a point where I'm capable of running a business when I'm still trying to manage my own break even and my car and this, that, and the other, and the short answer is, how do you get stronger? By finding the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it, right? Like that's how you get stronger. Like taking ownership of everything around you and eliminating the "that's not my job" kind of attitude. There's so many little things that you can do to take on responsibility in your environment today, like right now, that is not only going to make you better, but it's going to make the environment better for everyone else. And people are going to grow around you. And it's something as little as if you wipe down the boards in the morning before everyone comes in. So someone could just come in with a new person and start teaching on the board straight away without having to look for an eraser. Whether it's picking up trash on the ground, and in the hallway, making sure that the lobby looks good, like taking the time to actually come in and make sure that the chairs are aligned in the lobby and there's no dust on the seats and everything looks good, because people that are walking in these interviews, they're walking into your business and you take that sense of pride in everything that you do. So policing negative situations, even if it's someone that's not on your crew, right? It's not enough to just have the conversation with that person, right? Like taking full ownership of it is the follow through of then having the conversation with that person's leader and letting them know like, hey, last night Johnny was nigging out about territory in the hallway. Maybe you want to have a conversation with him about, how to manage his territory so he doesn't have these problems, and it's the full follow through on not just addressing what's in front of you, but being able to address that through everyone, where you're literally changing and creating the environment around you at the same time in a positive way. Finding negatives to diffuse in atmosphere, whether that's two distributors pitching, and making sure that you go up to them and have the conversation with them and making sure that they're working with, with another leader. So I think there's just a big difference between being busy in an office and being productive. And if you focus on just the ways that you can be productive by taking on all the little responsibilities you see around you and just volunteering yourself to be the one that does it, you're going to inspire that behavior in others around you that see what you're doing and recognizing, hey, that this person's doing the little things, but they're doing the right things, right? And now you've got other people that are also doing the little things around you. And how much more does this evolve and does this escalate? Like, that's the exciting part about, the adventure of the journey, is that we don't know what the pinnacle of that can be if everyone just did their part and did their job and stepped up to the plate to take ownership and responsibility of everything around them, whether it's their job or not. It's their leader in the office, it's their job. And that's the way that I look at it. And you brought up something when we had a conversation yesterday that I thought was great. I wrote it down. You said, if you see a chance to be a leader, be a leader. I don't remember where you quoted it from, but I thought that was
Bill Belichick. He said,
right.
said to his rookies, when, even though you're a rookie and even though you might not be a veteran and you don't have the experience, he said, when you see a chance to lead, take it. When you see a chance to be a leader, take that opportunity to be one and make that a habit. So I think that's extremely relevant to the things you're talking about for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the well, yeah, I thought that was a great quote. So good stuff. And then last but not least, when we opened up back in July of last year, we had 4 people in the office, and it was not it was a demoralizing situation coming back, from quarantine, coming into the office. We had 25 people prior, and then, we opened back up with 4, and I looked around the room, I knew it was demoralizing. So it's like someone had to have the vision, someone had to be able to start promoting the goals and talk about, where we were going to go as an office. And that's where I think Zoom has just become this unbelievable tool, because I really leaned in on Zoom to say, hey, we're not like the example now, but look at all these other people that are being examples that we can learn from and, strive to, to grow and get ourselves on these Zoom calls, and that really worked. But something that I focused on was really the tracking of things. And I started doing this myself first. And then once I felt like I got into a good groove of what I needed to focus on in order to build the office, then I started incorporating the leaders into it, where every Saturday we would do a leaders meeting for like a 15-minute wrap up, and we would go over these things, and it brings me back to this quote that, that Ken says a lot, which you asked, what was my favorite quote? And this is the one I wrote, is that the grass isn't greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. And essentially, like, what you focus on will grow. So if you really want to take ownership of your situation and you really want to be the next one out, then take ownership of these things and start tracking your progress and investing in preparation for the next week right now. And this is really simple, but this literally was the checklist that I looked at every single week. When we first opened up, we did 21 apps our first week. And, by the time we kind of reached our goal of getting to where we wanted to be at the top of the tracker, we had done 137, and we promoted someone into assistant management who's now running the New Rochelle office, right? But this is what I tracked every single week. And first was just raw production, right? And just going over these day breakdowns and identifying trends. One of my biggest pet peeves is people coming back and taking a picture of their day breakdown on their phone. It's like, it's a picture that is just, using up data on your phone that you're never going to go back to and look again. Well, what is the point, right? So I'm very adamant and very big on, like, hey, fill out the day breakdown sheet and keep it with you every week. And you're going to start to notice the trends in what you're doing every single day. And when you know what the trend is, it becomes very easy to just move it in the direction that you want to go. So don't just go over the raw production, actually take a look at the breakdowns and identify what you need to work on in order to drive production, in the office after that week. And then going over piece averages between leaders and distributors. This just opened up so many talking points on why are the leaders crushing it right now and the distributors aren't following suit, or why are the leaders lagging behind and the distributors are really, going out there and getting it done. It's finding holes in the game for the week and being able to kind of course correct or make the adjustment that's going to get everyone where they want to be. And we set the target where, the piece average for leaders was 8 and the piece average for distributors were 6. So we knew exactly where we needed to drive it and what we needed to work on in order to do that. Cancel rates. What's the point of having great production if your cancel rate's high? So when our cancel rate would increase, we'd sit down and we would talk about, okay, what are the workshops that we could run next week? What could we do to identify better quality people? What are the strategies that we can create to work with the top offenders in the office to drive their cancel rate down? And it just highlighted that, hey, if this is high, like, this is what we can be working on all of next week to drive it down. And after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'd knock it down, and now it's a matter of just keeping that in place while you're working on everything else. Then, of course, you got days of observation. This is the growth of your business. How many opportunities do you have to build headcount? And how do you give yourself more opportunities, to build headcount? And obviously, that comes down to personal recruits, where if we're looking at personal recruits over the week and it's 0, and that's an easy conversation for me to have with my leaders. If you're the leader managing a crew of 3 people and your personal recruits are 0, it's an easy conversation of what you could be doing next week to make sure you at least get 2 or 3. But it's just moving the needle a little bit. Over time, those incremental changes add up to drastic results. And then the cross sell, like, what an unbelievable opportunity to earn extra money, get more yeses in the field. I mean, this is something that's just been unprecedented in direct sales. There's not another organization out there that has the ability to offer 2 top tier products or services to one customer and get paid on both of them. It's unreal. Why aren't we taking more advantage of these opportunities? Well, it's because we're not talking about it, right? And that's really it. So making sure that we're actually identifying what can we do to improve this and drive this metric every single week, and you'll get better at it. How many zeros you're looking at every single week on your crew. Your production might be great. It might look like a good number, but if there's still a lot of zeros in there, then okay, it could be better, right? And how do we improve that? How do we make that better? Why are people rolling as often as they are? What can we do? It just opens up all these doors to investigate things that you can then manage as the leader on the crew in order to, fix the results. Obviously get better results. How to eliminate that. And then your average paycheck, leaders versus distributors. This is something that we focused on, where my goal is like, okay, we've worked on a lot of these other things. I want to get the average paycheck over $1,000 in the office. for distributors and leaders. And we worked, it took 4 weeks before we finally got it, but after we did it for the first time, I was pumped. It was like $1,090 was the average paycheck in the office. I was excited, and take whatever available measure you can to do it. Throw out little incentives, little bonuses here. But one of the reasons why I think people don't personal recruit more is because they lack the confidence in what their average paycheck is, right? Like if you were someone who were able to go out there and perform and generate $1,500 a week, you wouldn't have a shred of doubt in talking to people about coming in for an opportunity like this, even if it was starting off in entry-level door-to-door sales. Because you'd be able to say with conviction and confidence, I make $1,500 a week going out there and doing this, talking to 40 people a day, right? Like you got the results. So being able to kind of build yourself up to that point and in the process, elevate those people around you, like all of these things are things that you could be managing every day to take ownership of your situation. So that's all I got on the slides here.
That's great.
10 minutes
I
left.
got so many notes. I think that my big takeaway before we get into the questions was the fact that I think a lot of people when they join the business, like I mentioned, not everybody comes in thinking like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning how some people look at it like a job, and those people, it's really hard for those people to make a difference, or for this to make a difference for them. You mentioned the people that sort of look at things like a career, where there's this perfect work-life balance, and they're just trying to do it to make money, and they want to contribute, but they're not really the big difference maker. And then you mentioned the last one, which was the entrepreneur, which ultimately, the hardest part about our business is we can't make people work hard without constant supervision. We can't make you assume the next position. We can give you all the opportunities, but you're the one who has to take control of your situation. And I think the thing that you mentioned that really stuck with me was that even though you might have no one on your team, you might have one person on your team, your aha moment was, it's my business right now, right? You looked at it like it's Anthony Puglia Incorporated, and I'm doing, X amount of sales per week, and my business has one employee, right? And when you started to think of it that way, and every week you're looking at building your business, right? To me, that was the difference for me as well, going through the program, and how when you start to look at things like everything's yours, and if you've heard the quote, if you treat the office like it's yours, one day it will be. I think that this is the ultimate message for all of you guys who are listening. Like, really start looking at the business and taking control of your own situation, and don't wait for things to happen, make them happen. And so we got a question I want to make sure we get to, which I think was really good. It says, when you notice someone on your team that treats the business like a job, what's the best way to change their perspective about it?
I mean, I would really say like just sitting down and talking with them about what their goals are. Like, what do they want to get out of this? There's plenty of opportunities for people to go out and just get a job, but why do they want to manage a business? Why do they want to lead people? So I think it's just a matter of asking that why question to people to really kind of dig deep, into what's important to them. That's really it. Like, you just got to get to the root of what their step 7 is, and why are they in this environment? Like, what do they believe that they can do with this, and why are they interested in that? So I think that just comes down to more one-on-ones, generally a breakfast or a dinner, to really sit down with that person and say, look, you show up, that's great, but you don't do the things necessary in order to get to where you say you want to get to, which is leadership or management. So why do you even want this to begin with? What can you get from management in this organization that you couldn't get at managing a CVS? Like, that's a management position.
Yeah, for sure. Well, a question that I have, I think this is the big challenge, and I was talking with Ken about this last week, about how our job as leaders is to make ourselves better every week, like is to do something that develops our own situation, our own mentality, our own leadership ability. And I think what I've noticed when I go office by office is you have certain leaders in the office that are really about that, and are usually what coincides with that is their communication level with their owner. Like, they talk a lot with their owner, they communicate a lot with the owner. They're having critical conversations with them about their situation. But then you have another group that maybe is shy, maybe is timid, and is sort of waiting to be disciplined about their situation, as opposed to being proactive about making it better. And I know you said, going through the field, that you started building a relationship with Ken, and you said that made a big difference because you were talking to someone who was very successful in the business. What is your advice for people that maybe are not communicating with their owner as much, or they're not reaching out to other people because it's not in their personality to like network when things are bad? They only want to talk about things when they're good. And I think it's kind of a challenge because people sink into a hole and they don't review their situation. They don't ask questions. And that was the difference for me. I just started asking questions every day to my owner,
Yeah.
and I just got better faster. So what's your advice to that person who doesn't reach out a lot and doesn't network?
Well, I think everyone needs to recognize that there are things that you need to be willing to change about yourself if you want to reach heights that you've never attained before. And I think everyone could agree with that, that rationale that if you want to get somewhere you've never been, you got to be willing to do things you've never done, right? And if part of those things that you need to kind of break out of your shell for is now just asking questions to people who are, masters of, certain elements of the business that you're in, where we promote networking, well, that's a really easy pill to swallow in terms of things you need to work on about yourself. So I think you just got to ask yourself realistically, okay, what are you willing to change, or what are you willing to work on, or what are you willing to do, you know, um, to get to where you want to be? Are you willing to expand your comfort zones? Yes. Okay, great. How? Are you willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation with someone, even if it is a little uncomfortable? And if the answer to that is yes, and then you do it and you realize, wow, that actually wasn't that bad. That was actually very impactful. I actually got a lot out of that. Then you'll start making it easier for yourself to say yes, to do things that, that you've never done, that you should be doing, that are going to help you get further down the road, that maybe be a little bit more challenging than picking up the phone and calling somebody. So I think it's just a matter of, are you willing to do what you need to do? And that's the entrepreneur. That's the person that takes ownership of the situation. And the answer is yes. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do, even if that means picking up the phone and having an uncomfortable conversation.
I think that my advice, and this is goes along with you, is the quote that I heard is the squeaky wheel gets the oil,
Mhm.
right? So when you're driving and you hear a squeaky wheel, like you're gonna go and make sure that wheel gets taken care of, even though there might be another wheel that's just as damaged, but it's not making any noise, so you won't know. And so when you're a leader and you're not getting the results, right? A part of your responsibility is to be loud about not getting results. And I know that's the hardest time to do it, but you need to go into your manager's office, you need to talk to your leader, and you should have questions about how to get better, right? You should be talking. People sometimes ask me, hey, what's a great question to ask? And I'm like, it's not about asking a great question. It's about asking a question that's very pertinent or relevant to your situation. And if you every day have a question, hey, how do I get better at closing interviews? What's your advice? I'm struggling with this. How do you get better at that? I think that's the first step, is just getting comfortable networking with people that can help you every single day. And then we got a question in the chat, which I think is a good one too. What's a great way to network with others outside of the office when they don't always respond or get back to you? I know everybody's busy, it's difficult, but if you're a leader and you really want to get on a call with someone that you know of, how would you recommend for the best way for them to go about that?
I mean, it's a lot of times it might just come down to law of averages, like just reach out to more people and you're eventually going to get people that want to talk. Um, or do it a couple times. Like, don't be afraid to kind of be a pest or be a bother, because if it's someone who you really want to network with, they understand why you're doing it, right? Like they get it, especially if there's someone who's like, they have information or they're in a situation that you're excited about learning more about, or you want to get more information. They understand why you're networking with them, right? And why you're being, I guess, assertive or aggressive about, trying to get them on the phone. So call, or send a text message. If there's no response, do it again. I mean, we work in an environment where you get 30 no's to the chin every single day and come back with a smile on your face. Like, why give up if someone doesn't respond to a text message one time, or just find another leader? That's one of the best things about, this nature of how the business has evolved through Zoom, and, opening up these doors to all these other people that are accessible, when maybe somebody else isn't. So, find your next, like, choose your next target and go after them.
I think also one of the tools you guys should use is use your owner, and say, "Hey, owner, can you reach out to this owner for me and help me set up a call?" The other thing I would do is make sure that instead of, I know this because I've been doing this a while, but when networking happens, people who are good at the business, they like to be able to impact as many people as possible when they talk, right? Which is why we do these calls. So if I'm you and I want to network, I'm like, "Hey, can we have so and so owner run a leaders call for us?" And within that leaders call, you can ask all your questions. But
Yeah.
you want to get, I would make it more of a group thing, where if I'm calling Puglia and saying, "Hey, Puglia, I got a leader in my office, or I have my leaders that would love for you to run a call for them. Can you get on a call with my leaders?" for 15, 20, 30 minutes. What time works best for you? And that might be one of my leaders coming to me and saying, hey, Van, can we get on a call with Puglia? And then I tell my owner to reach out to him, because that way there's a connection point, and I'm just not some random person. Nothing against reaching out, being a random person, but obviously there's a lot of people that reach out to owners.
Yeah.
So I think having a sort of a planned attack of like, all right, I'm going to tell my owner to tell this owner to do a call for all of the leaders. That way, more people, not only in my situation, but in other situations, can be impacted, which will help the office. So I think that's kind of my input. Well, Puglia, I know you just covered a lot of information. I think that for many, many people in our business, taking ownership of their situation is the turning point. And I thought that you covered so many ways to do that, whether it's creating a team culture, whether it's, being in control of everything, eliminating zeros, running your business, even though you have a small business, running your business and creating that vision for the future. I think that's something you hit on too, which is, who the hell would follow you if there's not a future that's exciting? And it's your job as leaders to create that future now. So, Anthony, thank you so much. You covered a lot of great information. Can you, in the chat, real quickly, can you write your email and your number so if people want to reach out?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll make sure we have that. So for anybody that's in the chat, and then we'll send that out as well. So that way, for anybody that wants to do any follow-up call with Anthony or any other calls in general, we love that this is sort of the first talking point. But we know many, many conversations happen after these things, and the more we can expose you guys to information and success stories and examples, the better. So, Puglia, thank you so much. You're the man. I appreciate you giving us the time today. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys next Tuesday morning. Take
Thanks
care.
a lot, Ben.
Yep.
Good.